Good evening, everyone. It is so great to have everyone here this evening, and we are so excited to be here talking about education workers and COVID-19. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful co-host, Ajamu Dillahunt, to bring us our welcome and what we're here for.
Thank you, Danielle. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ajamu Dillahunt, and on behalf of the Southern Workers Assembly, I want to welcome you to our fourth webinar dealing with Southern workers fighting back during the COVID-19 pandemic. But before we begin, we'd like to share a little information about the Assembly. Southern Workers Assembly, or SWA, is a network of worker activists that seeks to develop the self-organization, leadership, and collective action of rank and file workers. As rank and file workers in trade unions, organizing committees, and worker organizations in the U.S. South, we have committed ourselves to building the Southern Workers Assembly as a democratic workers' alliance, working to develop a politically conscious social movement to organize labor in the U.S. South. As we begin the 6th month of what we have called a two-pronged pandemic, that is raging racism and police murders of Black people and a raging virus creating a public health crisis along with a severe economic crisis, it's critical that we examine yet another assault on workers. The spotlight now is on our education workers, the teachers and teacher assistants, the counselors and nurses, the custodians and bus drivers, the clerical and the cafeteria workers. They are essential workers in an extremely profound way. They're responsible for the millions of young people enrolled in public education from kindergarten through university. They are daily responsible for the intellectual and social development of our children, and importantly, their safety. Like every parent, teacher, and staff person, we stand for safe education for all. With its failing response to COVID-19, the US government is putting everyone's lives at risk. They're practicing capitalism, serving the rich, but we say need, not greed. We're all in the same pandemic and we're not hearing clarity and sober plans. So we have to be involved in the decisions in our local communities. Otherwise, it's protest time. This crisis will not vanish in a few weeks. Several things are our bottom line for survival. In other words, they're strategic. So we can stay alive, Medicare for all. So we can survive, a livable wage for all. So our children can get an education, full funding for public education. So education, work, and life can go on, broadband for all. We, the essential workers, must be protected. That means organizing, educating, and mobilizing for power in this pandemic. Why should the bosses run things when we do all the work? Join the SWA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajamu, for bringing us in on such a high note and letting us know what we're here for this evening. My name is Danielle Brown, and I'm going to be your facilitator for this evening. And I am so excited to be a part of the Southern Workers Assembly and even more excited to be here with you guys tonight. So just a few housekeeping things. We want to ensure that everyone gets all the fun and attention that they need. So we're going to ask if you would please keep yourselves on mute if you are on our Zoom. We're going to ask if you have any type of burning questions or anything of that nature, if you would please put them in the chat, especially after our great, wonderful speakers speak to this evening. We're also going to ask if you're on social media, that if you have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat as well. We've got someone looking at them and that will be able to bring it back over to us. So tonight we have some great speakers from North Carolina, West Virginia, and New Orleans. And we have one teacher that's coming out of Tennessee that's going to bring us a short call for solidarity. So we're also going to be having some breakout rooms tonight. So the 3 breakout rooms that we're going to be having are how to organize to stop reopening of your school for safety, how to lead an internal workplace petition campaign, and how to organize a local workers assembly. Those are the two great breakout rooms, the three great breakout rooms that we're going to have. And we've put a link in the chat, and we're asking everyone to please go to that link to choose the breakout room that you would like to be in, because we are planning to have some amazing discussion around these topics tonight with some really, really great facilitators that are going to be leading it. So please, please, please click on that and click on the link and let us know which one you would like to be in. I will probably be bringing that announcement up a couple more times just to make sure we get everybody in the correct breakout room this evening. So at this point in time, we are going to introduce one of our great, amazing speakers. And I'm really, really excited. I got to meet these wonderful individuals prior to us coming on tonight, and every last one of them have an amazing story. So first, let's start off with Jenny Craig. She is the president of Ohio County Education Association, steering committee of West Virginia United Caucus, and Wheeling Middle School. She's an amazing, amazing organizer, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear her story this evening. Jenny?
Oh, thank you for that introduction. That was too kind. So I'm Jenny Craig. I'm a special ed teacher in a middle school in West Virginia. And what we've been doing is starting to organize at the ground level. So through the work of West Virginia United Caucus, which is a caucus of rank and file educators, in West Virginia, we have 3 education unions. We have WVEA, which is the NEA affiliate. We have a service personnel union, and we have AFT West Virginia.
Okay, can you give the full name of those unions? A lot of folks may not know what those initials stand for.
Yeah, okay. So we have in West Virginia, we have the National Education Association affiliate, which is WVEA, so the West Virginia Education Association. We have the American Federation for Teachers West Virginia, and we have a school service personnel union called WVSSPA, the School Service Personnel. Directly after the strike in 2018, just a real quick summary of what West Virginia United is. We wanted a way to not lose the grassroots momentum that we had during that strike. We also wanted to push our unions in a more progressive manner to take on social justice issues and to take up the fight for fully funded public schools. And so we formed a caucus. What we started to do and to organize months ago, we recognized, just like with our first, the 2 strikes that we had in 2018 and 19, that we can't wait for leadership to step in to represent us or to save us. And so we started organizing on our own. And so we organized Zoom calls across the state. We came out with toolkits for local union presidents or local union leaders to do Zoom calls within their union, to start talking about safe school reentry and what that looks like, to start talking about their concerns. And so through that, we have created a platform called Our Students First, West Virginia. So I'm going to post that in the chat. So if you click on that link either now or later, what you'll see is a platform that was designed by not just teachers and service personnel across West Virginia, but many parents. We've hosted Zoom calls with parents, with medical professionals, and with teachers and service personnel across the state. And we really wanted to build on that grassroots effort that we had during the 2019 strike against privatization in charter schools. And so we revived the name Our Students First. That is the name of the coalition that we fought back against charter schools with. Parent-led, we have tons of really good community sponsors. And we recognize now more than ever, we need community buy-in with this. We need parents to understand why we're pushing back and why we're pushing for remote start, at least until we have a significant downward trajectory of cases for 14 days. We know too, our parents are strapped more than ever, and they rely on our school systems for all of the things that we provide in addition to education. And so that was a really critical piece in organizing. And so What that link will also take you to, not just our platform for safe school reopening, but also a petition that you can customize a letter, and it sends it to our governor, to our state superintendent, and to the president of our state board of ed. And it'll also send, there's an option for locals to send a letter to their own superintendent in their county. Of course, we have 55 counties in West Virginia. One of the main problems with our school reopening plans is our governor has not led at all, and he's leaving each individual school system the autonomy to develop their own safety plans. The State Department of Ed has put out some guidance documents, but unfortunately, safe practices aren't mandated in that. Counties can choose the distancing. They can choose whether students wear masks and staff wear masks. And so all of these really critical decisions, what this is calling on is just a uniform set of safety provisions, but to start remotely until we have 0 cases or near 0, or at least a great downward trajectory of cases for 14 days. In saying that, though, we know that we need equitable distance learning plan for our students. We're highest in the nation for grandparents that raise children. That's a big concern safety-wise, but also lack of accessibility of broadband is a huge problem in our state. So that's part of our platform, to try to push for more investment in broadband, to make sure that all of our students have access to a device, to make sure that we have training programs, not just for teachers, but for parents and grandparents and grandfamilies, so that they understand how to do the distance learning. We're also pushing for much better distance learning plans for our special needs students. As a special ed teacher, it was really great to be able to work with special education, parents of special needs students, and talk about the problems that we had in the spring and how we can remediate those and provide teletherapy for speech and occupational therapy, and really addressing the mental health needs of our students as well. Our Department of Health and Human Resources, so in Child Protective Service cases, dramatically dropped during the spring. Unfortunately, we know that's not because those things weren't happening, but we took out the mandated reporters in the child's life. So we want to work better with the state agencies to make sure that we have a plan to reach these most vulnerable students. And then when we're safe to return, we are demanding that we have an independent study done of our ventilation systems, of our HVAC systems in every facility. That's something we're not talking about enough in West Virginia and really across the country. We know the airborne nature of the virus, and that's something that we want to make sure happens before we're in buildings. We don't have a nurse in every building. And so we're pushing for a school nurse, a full-time school nurse in each and every building before we return. And then uniform 6 feet social distancing measures on buses and in classrooms, which is going to require smaller class sizes, reduced bus capacity, and it's going to require a lot more staffing. And so those are the things that we're really pushing for before we do any sort of reentry. So we participated in the National Day of Action on Monday. We asked parents and students and teachers and personnel to do video messages and social media messages and take pictures. And we have the hashtag only when it's safe and hashtag 55safe with 55 counties and our 55 strong hashtag that we had during the strikes. That was something that people could really get behind. And we had a great response to that. And so now it's just pushing for our union, for our leadership to collaborate, to coordinate, to adopt these plans as their own. There was a joint press conference with 2 of the unions last week, directly after the governor basically, implored us to go back and that we weren't going to be starting remotely. And so finally, we feel that, leadership is starting to come forward with many of these same demands that the rank and file members have been making. And so we know right now is the time to do those one-on-one conversations, to talk to rank and file members, to get them to push their own locals to adopt these programs. And on our Students First, WV.org, there's also a toolkit for Board of Ed meetings. So parents and teachers can have a framework for how to show up, how to talk to their Board of Education, how to talk to their superintendent, because again, a lot of these decisions are being left to the locals. And so those are some of the things that we've been doing this last month and a half. We have schools that are starting for teachers in 2 weeks. And so it's really critical now that we really push for a remote start until we see a significant drop in cases. But then we have these safety protocols in place if and when it is safe to go back.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing and what you guys are doing. And just in case somebody missed it, could you drop the link in the chat one more time that you noted during your speech? That would be great. Thank you. It's already there. So you guys check it out. Click on it and ensure that you guys are staying up on what's going on and following Jenny as she progresses in her in the campaigns that they're working on. Thank you, everyone, for utilizing the chat for the comments. We are seeing some amazing comments throughout and letting us know some things that are going on that we're not even aware of. So thank you guys so very much. We're going to ask everyone to continue utilizing the chat. If you have any questions or any concerns, if you don't understand something, please utilize the chat. That would be great. Thank you so much. So again, we're going to ask everyone to please sign up for the breakout rooms. How to organize to stop reopening of your schools for safety. We're also going to ask you to sign up for how to lead an internal workplace petition campaign, or how to organize a local worker assembly. So please click on the Google Doc that's in the chat and ensure that you're signed up for one of those breakout rooms. Thank you. Okay. We're moving on to our next dynamic speaker, and I'm a little excited for a couple of different reasons. One, his last name is the same as mine. That's number one. No relation, though, number one. And number two, he's from North Carolina, and so am I, so I'm really pretty excited about that. Brandon Chuck Brown, he's with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools custodian in Charlotte, North Carolina. He organized a high-profile organizing campaign, which he's going to tell us all about. And the greatest thing is he's a father, so he gets to experience this from both sides. So, Brandon, it's all you.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I want to say it's an honor to be amongst so many wonderful educators. And thank y'all for having me on this panel. It all started, if y'all can still hear me, it all started back when COVID had first hit, I believe April. It hit in March, but it was April. They took us out on furlough, and I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. Her name was Tara Long. And we were talking, and we organized together. She introduced me to a couple of people, and one of them was Dante, who's a part of this, and Dominique, who's a part of this as well, to petition a campaign. So I reached out to some custodians. They encouraged me to reach out to some custodians and basically, go about trying to get them to sign the petition. The custodians were afraid to. So I had to reach out to CMS advocates, and I had to reach out to the community. And a couple of friends of mine from the community, as well as the petitioners, helped me organize putting a rally together in order to get the county commissioners and the school board behind what I was trying to do. The county commissioners were in favor of giving the school board $11 million, but they wanted to hold the school board accountable for the $11 million in order to pay the hourly employees. What's happening now, it got approved, but what's happening now is they're still holding on to the funds. the county commissioners. They were supposed to meet up with the superintendent Wednesday, and the superintendent bailed out and met with the senator of North Carolina. So that's where we stand now. We approved of the 11 million to where we can get 15 because of the community, my community, who stood behind and supported us, but we still haven't got the $15 that we need. It was supposed to be released. It was released July 1st, but like I said, they're still holding on. So I really don't understand what's going on with the superintendent, but hopefully he'll step up to the plate and meet up with the county commissioners to where they can release the money.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon, so much for sharing your story with us and how you guys are working this campaign. This has been an amazing to be able to sit and watch how this has all come together. And you have our support 110,000%. So we are right there with you, standing with you and behind you as the community in Charlotte, North Carolina. So thank you so much, Brandon.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Thank you all again for utilizing the chat. We're going to ask that you continue sending us questions, sending us comments, letting us know what's going on. We're going to also ask that you, if you're on social media, please, please, please utilize the chat there. We've got people that are looking at it and that are able to report everything back to us so that we can make sure that questions are answered and you guys have the contacts that you need. Thank you again. So our next speaker is John Guzda. He's the Social Studies Department Chair, West Jefferson High School. He is a Louisiana Educators United organizer and the Jefferson Federation of Teachers member. So, John, are you there?
Ready to go.
Let's rock.
All right. Hey, everybody. Again, just to echo what the previous panelists mentioned, thank you so much for taking your time out on this Sunday evening to listen and to hear us out. I really appreciate everybody here taking the time to listen to me because I'm gonna get real with everybody here. I'm gonna describe pretty much everybody a nightmare scenario. Worst case scenario, because down here in Greater New Orleans, we are in the middle of the nightmare, and I hope what I say tonight to everybody sparks a little bit more fire to organize, because again, the reality is it could not possibly get worse than where it is right here in Greater New Orleans in the state of Louisiana. To start off, I don't know if everyone in here is aware. You know, a lot of states around the country, of course, get most of the attention for COVID, whether it's, you know, New York, California. But last time I checked, a few hours ago, the state of Louisiana is #1 in the entire country for per capita infections. Louisiana's #1. And within the state of Louisiana, Jefferson Parish, which is the parish right next to Orleans Parish, so again, Greater New Orleans area, it has the highest number of infections in the entire state. So in terms of where COVID is pervasive in the country, it does not get any worse than in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. Now, despite these realities, this is where we're at. Teachers this past week in Jefferson Parish were asked to report back to schools. I'm a backtrack in a bit, you know, to lead up to all this, but teachers reported back this past week. Within 2 days, it only took 2 days. They probably knew about it within the first day, but within 2 days, the news reported that already a handful of education workers had already been infected with COVID, something that didn't surprise any of us. And I say handful because that's the word that the media has used. It's the only word that has been thrown out there. When they've said that a handful of people have been infected with COVID, we don't know if it's 4 people, 9 people, 15 people, 27 people. What does a handful mean? I don't know. They haven't told us. Not only have they not told us, but they haven't told us which school sites were the sites of the infection. So for all we know, we could be working in the same buildings where people were infected. We have no clue. We have no clue. Our students are going to be reporting back to campus this Wednesday. It's going to be a disaster of titanic proportions. I bring up the Titanic on purpose. I bring up the Titanic because after Hurricane Katrina, this is where I'm going to roll back a little bit. Everybody can go back with me to 2005. Hurricane Katrina hits New Orleans. Immediately in the aftermath of the hurricane, New Orleans, the greater New Orleans area, rapidly begins to privatize education. No other city in the country has as many per capita charter schools than what we do. Since Katrina, all the schools in Orleans Parish are now charter, every single one. There are no more public schools. They're either charter, private, or magnet. In my district, Jefferson Parish, which is the largest school district in Louisiana, again, located in the greater New Orleans area, we have a bunch of magnet schools, charter schools within our district, within our public school district. And when we're all thinking about how are we going to deal with this down here, again, I brought up the Titanic. And what one of the previous speakers said, and it's a great point, we're all on the same boat. We're all on the same boat. We all got to deal with COVID. But this is the reality. And the reality is very real, in particular in the greater New Orleans area. Some schools are definitely more equipped to deal with the virus than us. All right? Some of us, we're down, we're the third class passengers. Third class passengers. By the time we get up to the top of the ship, if we get up there, the lifeboats are already going to be gone. In any case, we haven't just been sitting back doing nothing, okay? We've organized a couple of rallies. The rallies have resulted in our school board members, 3 of our school board members coming to our side, the president of our parish coming to our side. But the reality is our school board is completely in the pockets of the business community. Our union has been very weak. You know, there's that old saying, if you don't have a union, fight to get one. If you have a union, fight to make it fight. We've been fighting like hell to get them to fight, but we haven't had a strike since 1979. Haven't had a strike since 1979, again, in part due to the privatization of education in greater New Orleans. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting until the last moment. And again, everyone who's on this call, I implore you, please start organizing now. Start organizing now, because if you don't, people will die. One person getting sick is one too many. One person dying is one too many. Thank you.
Thank you, John, so very much. And you raised a very great point that we're all in this together. So we're standing with you, brother, no matter where we are here in the country, because we're all facing the exact same thing. And our children are pawns in all of this, and our school educators, they're pawns in all of this. So we don't want anyone to be a pawn. We want everyone to work together, organize, and let's let people know what we can do once we stand together. So thank you again. The chat, I'm loving it. It is definitely on fire. Everybody is they're posting, putting up all these different links. We've got people from everywhere. So please check them out. But the biggest link I want everybody to click on right now is the one that is for our breakout room. So how to organize to stop reopening of our schools for safety is one that you can be a part of, and John just talked about that and what they're doing. How to lead an internal workplace petition campaign. We've had Brandon, who really spoke to that this evening, so you can be a part of that one, or you can learn how to organize a local worker assembly, which everybody should be a part of one. It have that family brotherhood. It's so amazing. So that being said, please make sure you're clicking on the Google form and let us know which one you want to be in this evening. If you've got questions or concerns, please put them in the chat. If you're on social media, we ask that you do the same thing. So time for another speaker. And so actually, we have our speaker. Our next speaker is Brian Prophet, and he is recently elected as the Vice President of the North Carolina Association of Educators. Congratulations. And was a longtime history teacher at Hillside High School in Durham, North Carolina. So Brian, are you around?
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. And thanks and lots of love and solidarity for the folks that went before me. In particular, Jenny, shout out to y'all in West Virginia for giving a bunch of us down here in North Carolina a nudge a few years ago. Y'all's work was a real inspiration for us. I want to start with just a lot of humility, right? Like I'm noticing the chats, the things that people are dropping in the chat, about the kind of demands that ought to be put forward. And I'm also listening to the stories of the folks that came before me and really just feeling probably more than any other moment I've ever felt like the situation is so complex, right? That it's sort of a constantly evolving, it's a constantly evolving process. And so I feel like everything that I'm offering right now is like gonna aim towards some general principles of things, but with a lot of humility and a lot of just, we've all gotta be trying all the things we know how to do, right? So when the call started, actually, my friend Amanda Kale from Nashville is on, and I was saying something to her about, well, we're trying to stop, people from killing us, right? And she was like, yeah, I never thought I'd have to do that as a leader of an educator union. And it was sort of like, well, we've known for a long time, like when shooters go into buildings, right? Like it's always educators that jump out, take the bullets, are the ones who are really putting things on the line to try to stop and keep our kids safe. Well, this is like the process of the destruction of public schools in this country has just been sort of a slow bullet, right? So public schools are the first demand that newly freed Black people make, right? And so the fight for decent public schools is at the center of the fight to dismantle racism in this country. And so after winning public schools, right, then we have Jim Crow schools. After kind of defeating the Jim Crow regime, now we've seen about a 40-year sort of slow bullet dismantling of public schools through constant tax cuts, constant calls for accountability, constant underfunding, right, and all that. And then they sort of come back at us and say, well, you're not meeting the needs of all these kids, when all the legislation that the same folks are passing are letting our families down, right? So it's been this slow bullet that we've been in the middle of trying to figure out how to dodge, absorb some of, et cetera, for a long time. And we also know that we're a women's-centered profession, right? There should be no illusions for folks about the connection between the desire that everyone has in society right now to send educators back to work and the fact that educators are women for the most part, right? And the fact that women are expected to sacrifice all the time to make sure that everybody else is okay, even up to this point where we can see it's actually like asking people to literally lay their lives on the line. So all that's been going on, and all that we've been kind of slowly building a network over the course of the last 7 years here in North Carolina, right? Jenny mentioned they started a caucus in West Virginia. That was the route that we took, right? Because what we wanted to do was we were looking at the attacks on education and really everybody in our state. Like our state is like a lot of, states around the country where we were taken over by the right in 2010. And they started kind of mercilessly attacking and taking away all the stuff we fought so hard to get over the years. And so we formed a caucus because we not only wanted to organize against those folks, but we also wanted to build a stronger fighting union, right? So we spent the last 7 years traveling around the state, building up a network, and really developing a lot of the tools that we're using right now. So we've been using Zoom for a long time because we've been trying to build this statewide network. What we've done is like travel all over the state, do trainings, meet people, push campaigns so that we find more people, do more trainings, meet more people, do a campaign, do more training, right? So just constantly trying to engage people. So we built this network that over the years we were able to translate into winning an election, so that we won an election to take leadership in the union in April, right? Like right after all this stuff was just really starting to hit. So the things that we've been trying to do since then have been, really how do you run a campaign, right? And just use the principles, what we know about campaign in general. And when you're fighting a campaign, you should always try to win something for your folks. You should never fight just to fight. You always want to win something. You always want to, at the end of it, point out how you're stronger and your enemy is weaker, right? And third, you want to build your organization, right? So those three things you want to have at the center of every campaign. So what we're trying to do right now is adjust to a campaign that has targets that include the US Congress, right? The Department of Education, the White House, the General Assembly of the state of North Carolina, some of our school boards, the state board of education, the governor, right? So there's all these different sets of folks who can give us parts of what it is that we need. And we've got to kind of be really flexible in figuring out at what moment do we lean on which person to get what. So what we've been doing is pushing for school boards to go full remote, because school boards is a smaller number of people. We know them, we have more power over them locally, there's more relationships there. So we've gotten over 50% of our schools in the state have gone to full remote because we're organizing at the level of school board. We've also been doing kind of, relationship building and pressuring, with friendly Democrats, including the governor, when we can, to kind of stave off the worst of what's coming. We're also now starting to try to build pressure on Tom Tillis, our US Senator, to try to get him to release HEROES Act funding. We're also going to start, pushing on the General Assembly, right, to get them to come off our money. That's our state legislature. So there's all these different places. So it looks like petitions. It looks like Monday night calls where we're teaching people how to organize. It looks like Wednesday night calls where we're getting 20,000 people on and telling them what's going on. We're trying every single trick that we've got, every single tool that we've got. There's some stuff that's working. There's some stuff that's not. But what we know is that keeping those principles central of how do we build an organization that is constantly building up leaders and constantly teaching people how to fight and having each other's backs, that's what's going to get us through this. So I'm excited to hear about other lessons that folks are learning. Appreciate the opportunity. Sorry, I'm 18 seconds over, Danielle. Sorry.
You didn't get a ding, so I think you're okay.
I was waiting on the ding.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate you so much. And we appreciate you educating our community, educating educating the educators, educating any and everyone that will listen, and applying pressure and pressure and more pressure. So thank you so very much for the work that you're doing here in North Carolina. And we're so excited about it. So at this point in time, we're going to, it takes a lot of work. It takes all of us working on this together. There's so many different ways that you can participate. There's so many different ways that you can advocate. And everybody has a part in this, big, small, little. If you're in the front, if you're in the back, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a way to participate. And so one of the ways we're asking you guys to participate this evening is we're asking you to donate to support the work that we're doing with the Southern Workers Assembly, including the organizing of the upcoming Southern Workers School, all of the different platforms that we have that we are doing across the state, across the South in general. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of resources to be able to get this done. And though we all work really, really well together to make sure it happens no matter what, we do need everyone's help to donate. So we have some links. If I can get my wonderful van to put that up for me, that'd be great. We all have like our own like vans and vannas. Oh, they put it in the chat. Cool beans. Alrighty. So in the chat, you will see the one-time donation. Again, we're asking everyone to please donate. We have, we're going to ask, can I get someone to put in the chat again, the one-time donation link and the one-time monthly or the monthly sustainer link. We're asking everyone to help with this as much as possible. And we've disabled that.
He's been removed, Danielle. Go ahead.
Alrighty, awesome sauce. We are keeping it moving. Alrighty, everyone. So that being said, we have a great call to action that is happening over in Tennessee this evening. Marianne Rains, who is a teacher from Tennessee that recently started a group on Facebook, the Tennessee for Safe Return to Campus. So Marianne, can you speak to that for us?
Yes, I just tried to unmute myself. It was kind of difficult. Thank you for having me tonight. But we've been trying to organize across the state because we have so many issues. And I have 2 people on here tonight, actually 3. We're really sitting in a hot spot. And we have many challenges, just like the other speakers have talked about. And we're trying, I keep talking about the West Virginia group that did this even within a right to work state. And yet we have so many teachers here that are afraid to even step up and help on a committee. And so we need to rally everybody's support. We're looking for pastors and for churches that are very respected in the community to join us, to join this fight. So I know Amanda Kale can put in the different unions. The unions really have to strengthen in Tennessee in order for us to move forward. But we do have some events going on, and we have done some events. And the big problems, of course, are the same with some of the other places, like in Louisiana and West Virginia. You know, we have older buildings or even some of the newer buildings that are now closed off. They don't have ventilation where you can open up the windows. Everything is closed. And so you have an environment where everything's closed. We have different places in Tennessee where it's a hodgepodge of these different districts doing different things, where, you know, some are saying, yes, they're going to mandate masks, and other ones are saying, no, the students don't have to wear masks, they're only going to wear them on the school bus. And so the doctors are pushing for a mandate across Tennessee for masks to stop the pandemic. And I was approached by the original organizer in California and about a group, you know, at the same thing, to keep schools closed and do virtual learning until the pandemic is under control. Now, there are different things that, you know, different counties are saying, or the state is saying that we have a red, a yellow, and a white zone. But in reality, the doctors have shown on a map, which I'm sure Dr. Bono will put up in the chat, is that we have this map where all of the counties are either red or orange, except for one, and that one is 9.9, and it has to be, they would be the only ones that could actually open with lots of restrictions. And yet we're all being sent back to school. I have friends that are already back in the school buildings. They're reporting that even in their trying to learn these things, people are not wearing masks. We've had already cases that are happening in the schools. And then they say we have limited resources. You know, the public schools have limited resources. If we're supposed to clean all day long, and even that won't do for, you know, the airborne particles, but cleaning and masking policies and physical distance enforcement, how much time are we going to have to actually teach students in the schools? there won't be much time left to do that. Physical distancing, they're in some districts, they're just putting everybody back in like it's normal teaching time. So that's a big issue. We have unsafe conditions, for the workers, for the students. Tennessee, of course, is a hot spot. They're not consulting with the health department on following the guidelines. And according to Protect My Care in Tennessee, which are the doctors, have said that they have a different metric they're using from Harvard, which is red, orange, yellow, and green. And so yellow is a possibility of kids being able to go back to school with restrictions, and green is it's safer. And those are the metrics that we should be following, yet they come up with all these different metrics. The original organizer came up with the metric of 0 cases in 14 days. And I believe he got that from the CDC, the original CDC guidelines that were put out from the beginning. I know I looked at aerosol research. I know it hasn't been totally approved by certain places, but there was a person I was on, the Educators United, and they were talking about one person who was really good at research, and he did research with a professor, Tanabe, in Japan, and he's a building expert. And he said the only way for the aerosols is to clear the aerosols from the indoor that are going to hang around, even with masks, is to have the MERV 13 filter. And so this is something that the schools, just like the Jenny Craig said from West Virginia, that schools are going to have to invest in to keep people safe in order to go back to school. And I think that's something we should put on our agenda. We also have something that's happening tomorrow. Governor Lee has given all the teachers a PPE kit, which is a mask, which looks like a sock, and it doesn't filter anything out. Okay, hand sanitizer, and I think wipes that says will last a month, but in reality, I've heard that it will probably only last about 2 weeks. So there's not enough PPE for the teachers to even stay safe. Tomorrow, Governor Lee has a special session to pass no liability for schools and employers and businesses. And so there is a rallying call on the site, Tennessee for a Safe Return to Campus, that anybody that's from Tennessee should be joining. We have different split up in different sections of the state to work on different local rallying calls. And we do need the extra support. But tomorrow he's working on this special session. And so we have a lot of calls going in. We also have another a call in the works for Labor Day, for a car rally in Nashville, and hopefully it will spread to other parts of the state. So we're really trying to stop these schools from opening up. We've only had a few districts in Tennessee that have actually gone virtual. Davidson County, Nashville is going virtual only till after Labor Day, and they're trying to change that. We have, I think, one other one in East Tennessee that did go virtual for a little while, but none of them, I think Shelby County is the only one that stated they would go virtual for until they announce otherwise. But other than that, all the other counties around that were all in red, we're all fighting the same battle of, we say we have to get the pandemic under control. If we don't get the pandemic under control, nobody's going to be able to go back to work. This is just unsafe conditions for everyone, and it's a catastrophe for the community. So we are trying to rally support around so that we can get this state moving and get the unions going so that we can stop these schools from opening up and causing a catastrophe in all the communities.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And we are definitely behind you. If you have any links or anything of that nature, if you don't mind putting them in the chat so that everyone can ensure that they are taking a part of everything. I saw Kristen. She wanted to respond into the action as well. Kristen?
Well, I think that's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jenny, is it Jenny?
Could be Jenny.
I think that was an imposter. We kicked him out, Danielle.
Oh, okay, got it. Never mind. No, we're good to go on that. So with everything that has been going on, I'm going to ask my fearless leader and my fearless co-facilitator, Ajamu, if he would come back on really quickly, and just to bring us back into kind of like a good space, and to kind of just talk through this, because it happens, and we're very aware of it. Everyone is taking care of this as quickly as they possibly can. But Ajamu, do you mind coming back on and giving us some words really quickly?
Yeah, well, as we've said in the chat, I want to apologize for people having to endure that racist attack. We did everything that we possibly could to prevent it, but you know, those things happen. But it just gives us a sense of what we're up against today, whether we're dealing with police violence and murders in our communities, or protecting workers that are dealing with the COVID crisis. It's all part of the same struggle. And it's only through building the kind of unity that is developing here through the Southern Workers Assembly and other organizations are we going to be able to beat these attacks back. So, you know, thank you for your patience, and just let this be another example of how much harder we have to fight to beat these fascists.
Thank you so much, Ajamu. We appreciate that. This is why we go to you, for bringing us back into reality of what's going on and how to push through it. He is definitely a fearless leader in all of this. So thank you so very much. Alrighty, everybody, we are getting ready to move into breakout rooms. And we have definitely, we've been pushing it and asking you. So we hope everybody is signed up for one of our wonderful breakout rooms with our great facilitators that are going to be leading it. So one of them is how to organize to stop reopening of your school for safety. The other one is how to lead an internal workplace petition campaign, or how to organize a local workers assembly. So please, please, please make sure you're going to be tuned in. So this is what's going to happen. Just a couple of things while everybody's getting ready and getting people to put everybody into the breakout rooms. We've got a great team that's working on that piece. So while we're doing that, if you have not signed up for a breakout room, the link is in the chat. And so we ask that you please sign up for one, and we are going to send everyone to breakout rooms, and you guys are going to have great conversation. And then once you are finished with that conversation, you guys are free for the night. We're going to give you all of that back, so you can have a good evening and prepare for a wonderful work week next week, because we've got a lot of work to do, as we have seen over everyone speaking. We have lots of work to do here in the South and as the Southern Workers Assembly. So before I do all of that, or before we break out, really quickly, we got a couple of announcements. We want to continue to work the work of our Safe Jobs and Safe Lives campaign to organize workers and industries across the South for safety. The Southern Workers Assembly is in the process of finalizing a toolkit to help people start local worker assemblies in their areas. So be on the watch out for that release. And then we also, with the Safe Jobs webinar, we were going to continue this every second Sunday. And the next one is going to be September the 13th, Sunday. You guys will get a wonderful email, wonderful invite, and we're going to be talking to some healthcare workers and making sure and talking to them and seeing how they can, what's going on in those areas as well. So, and how we can help and be a part. Again, please feel free to donate. We need as much help as we possibly can get across the South. We want to support all of the campaigns that are listed in the chat. Please take a look and start reading some of the articles that were placed in the chat as well, and get involved. If you're not a part of a Southern Workers Assembly, please reach out, get involved. We've got some great things going on across the South and some great ways for you guys to plug in. So with that being said, are we ready